Hi, this is Dr. Mark Sehl from the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart. It's nice to be here today. It's Tuesday. I'm having trouble with my camera, so I think I fixed it. Anyway, this is a talk. It's called Unintended Benefits from Being in Psychotherapy, and what do I mean by that? When people come in to see me, they have all sorts of issues. What I'm going to lay out is the unintended things that happen that will help you in your life and that you don't even think about. So I'm going to list some of those. And so psychotherapy is a way of practicing things that you want to bring into life, but you practice them here so that you can use that knowledge in your other life. So I'm a psychoanalyst. That doesn't mean that you come 3 or 4 times a week. It means that I learn the techniques and understanding of psychoanalysis, but doesn't include those kinds of definitions of how often you have to come in. It's the way I work with people that I've learned for a long time. So I see the therapy as a practicing a stage where you can really learn a lot, and you'll learn a lot by free speak. By that I mean, eventually it doesn't mean that I'm going to ask you to free speak when you first walk in the door. But the idea of free speaking means you can free yourself by free think out loud and talk all about yourself and your feelings, and you become much freer. Prison walls do not a prison make, or iron bars a cage. So that's very true. And that cage we inherited. We didn't develop. We weren't born with it. But often we're caged in by the reprimands of judges, judgments of people, their scolding, you know this about how, if you listen to the many talks and now the podcast. The podcast, by the way, iTunes, just put in Therapy for the Heart, and you can listen and watch now. So what's the resistance? What's the difficulty in saying everything that's on your mind? The resistance is often shame and fear of being judged, shame about who you are, the fact that you've been judged, you anticipate it here, so it's a very courageous thing to come and talk to somebody, a stranger. It's a big deal to be able to do that. It's a strength, not a weakness. So free speak, and we're told not to really have free speak because when we've spoken, we've been harshly judged often, or criticized, or ignored. And shame has a lot to do. Shame is a resistance. I feel ashamed, so it resists. You don't want to say what's on your mind, and you don't want to say what's on your mind is also because it's involved conflict and anxiety and difficulties that lie within you that you haven't really addressed before. So. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps you, get into therapy if you're not at some point. So, free speak. I had a person that walked into the room many years ago, this room, dared to cross the thresholds, and she was an actor. And she wanted me to help her because she didn't believe in herself, and she had lacked confidence, and that was her motivation. So I helped her. And what was the lack of confidence? Because she had been judged a lot. So what she was doing was she was projecting her feelings into the audience. So they became like a family to her, and with all the figures in there that represented just difficult experiences that she had. So she would project on anger, judgment, everything. And many people do that. They do that in work. Work becomes a family to them until they separate out. It's not work. It's not family. It's work. But I helped her a lot with the judgments, and I helped her a lot by helping her criticize me, because she never could criticize anybody in her family. When they attacked her, she couldn't say, "I don't want you to do that." They would even reprimand her more. So I helped her find fault with the therapy, which I do. I help try, because if it's like business 101, if you don't ask your employees how you're doing, they really won't give you a good output. Play around with on the computers. If you really are genuinely interested in how they feel about the job, they'll be more of they'll be respect you more. So I did that with her, and it was very helpful. And she also, so she didn't have trouble holding on to her role. She continued as a lead in Les Mis, and she also gratefully referred me people who, younger people who were actors, so they could have this experience too of being helped. So what was the unintended? The unintended was, she didn't intend to want to come here and talk about all these things. She wanted immediate relief, which was what people mostly do. They want immediate, get me out of the pain. So she didn't know what was causing her pain, so she understood that. That was the unintended. But by examining her feelings and speaking them out loud, she saw that the audience was a stand-in for her family. Another unintended result was that her relationship with her loved one was improved, because they would have a lot of conflict about how her judgment interfered with their relationship, and she didn't understand that was something that, why should she? But her relationship improved by her coming with the other presenting problem about her role as an actor. So that's the unintended result. Freedom. She could have freedom to speak out to me, and then I think that helped her also with her spontaneity, which you need to have as an actor, to be more spontaneous. As a matter of fact, I know it did, because she told me she was much more spontaneous as she was in therapy for a while. So we have two quotes that structure this whole therapy talks and the podcast. Podcast, by the way, is on iTunes, Therapy for the Heart. Just put that in there, Therapy for the Heart, in iTunes. And so now you can listen, and also you can watch. And it's important to be able to do both, because some people don't want to or can't do both. But the contents are very similar. But those two quotes, Joy to be Hidden and Disaster Not to be Frowned, by D.W. Winnicott. Joy to be hidden. Some people don't know how to hide. They've been brought up with very adherence to authority and shame, again, and ridicule, and they involuntarily expose themselves to vulnerability, because they might answer a question when they shouldn't. If they're at a party and somebody says to them, well, have you ever been married? What kind of question is that? You don't even know somebody. You're asking if they're married or not. But they can't say, oh, well, what makes you ask? You can't get them to be vulnerable to you about why they want to know. They're checking you out, or have they been married, or why don't they just get to know you as a person? So that's one thing that you can learn to hide, and I can teach you how to do that if you're not able to protect yourself, because it's essential to hide. As a matter of fact, in former therapies, like the more classical, they used to be, it's not so much anymore, they would confront people about, oh, so you're very silent today. And they might make an interpretation. You're silent because you have something to say and you're afraid to say it. That puts people on the spot, And there were more egregious confrontations that people did, but I don't do that. You need to be able to learn hide. So I'll teach you how to hide. And people often are subject to sexual assault, or they're victims of people who take advantage of them, and they can't protect themselves. So that's an unintended result of you coming here to be able to protect yourself. And this will become a safe place for you. That's another unintended result. You don't expect that I'm going to go see Dr. Sehl in maybe 6 months. This will be internalized, this memory, this impression of us working together, where I can trust him and I can say mostly everything. And it took some time, but it was worth it. So it becomes a safe place, and that's another unintended result. Let's take the other quote. It's with the heart that one sees rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Now these two quotes I framed in the podcast. They're also throughout my YouTube talks, because they've always been very important to me. The Little Prince, the fox, and the fox. One of them gets tamed. By meeting each other at a regular time, the same place. Regular time, the same place. It's like therapy, and they get to know each other. But it's with the heart that one sees rightly. So the heart is the role of emotions in our lives. That's what is the underbelly of my YouTube talks and my podcasts. It's really about the role of emotion, and we so much we focus on the externals in life. not the internal world of us. There was a famous director, Tarkovsky, a Russian, and he gave a little speech to the youth of the world, and he said, "Please take out your music and put down your iPhone and listen to the inner world of yourself." So I mean, that seems like a little. It's not like a judgment, but people are very preoccupied with not listening to their internal self. So our inner world is like, what do we know about it? We know partial, but most of it's unconscious. There's so much more that's in our unconscious than is in our conscious mind. And so it's good opportunity. And then instead of focusing on the externals, how much we have, consumerism, acquiring to what we acquire to base our self-esteem on, because there's a problem with that. If we lose those objects, whatever it is, an apartment that you bought and you lost its half its value during 2008, and then people get so depressed and sometimes kill themselves because of the reliance of this definition of their worth. So there are other things about you that you can want to understand as to who you are, your character, all the mixed feelings that you have, maybe all the mixed feelings, love and hate. Love can't exist without allowing yourself to be also aware of hateful feelings. And it's very important to know the whole world of our inner selves, to be surprised. I just was looking at an online talk where they said, "Be surprised by life," And I heard this talk a long time ago. The guy says, well, get up off the couch, and when you get up out of bed, get off on the other side that you're not used to getting up. Or when you walk out the door, take a trip that you're not accustomed to, And this is also like free speak. You're accustomed to what you're comfortable with, what you're saying, but you can be surprised if you work through the resistance to saying things because you're ashamed. You don't want to be embarrassed. So I took a walk when I did this talk, and I was composing it, and it is a composition, isn't it? So instead of walking to the left when I went out the door, I walked to the right, went around, I walked past the UN. Now I like to take photos of reflections, so I saw this wonderful reflection in the big, huge glass windows of the UN. I would never have seen that before if I always walked the same route to get my coffee. So that was wonderful. It's a good example. So there are many things, and so you find a world of yourself that you never have known before, and that's an unintended effect of being in therapy. Being able to discover aspects of yourself by speaking freely and working through the resistances to speaking freely. It's wonderful. That's why I love therapy. That's why I love when people blush. People blush because they're caught off guard. They may say something mistake in saying something's name. It's happened to me before. And when I see people blush, I think, wow, that's so genuine and authentic. So talk about authenticity, and it's disaster not to be found. That's the other quote that I frame all these talks on. So disaster not to be found. That's the Little Prince. No, that's the D.W. Winnicott. Back to that again. So the Little Princess is with the heart that one sees rightly. So that's what I was talking about, their feeling world. A lot of other therapists focus on this very intellectual exercise, structure, asking you questions. So it's fine. I do CBT a little bit in my work, but that's CBT I just read is probably going to lose its value in another 2 decades because it's not being proven to be that effective. This is not against CBT. I mean, I use it, but I think it became very convenient for insurance companies because it becomes a little cheaper and it's not long-term, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's disaster not to be found. So here you can be found in your own terms, on your own terms, at your own pace. I'm not rushing anybody. I mean, I don't know who you are, and I think most people have a feeling that if people really get to know me, they won't like me. That's not uncommon. So here you can gradually discover yourself and accept yourself and find out that maybe it's not true that once you're an authentic person, you won't be liked. I think it'll be just the opposite, like when I see people who blush And when I see people and they talk about things they never talked about with me before, like maybe they want to attack me and say, Dr. Sehl, I don't like what you said, or this is a waste of time. And I say, oh, well, what makes it a waste of time? How could I help you? How could I make it better? How can I make this therapy better? It's all my fault. I don't do the right things. And I said, it's not your fault. This is my job to treat you and help you. But why is it your fault? It's my fault, my responsibility. So a whole world there to discover, and everyone wants to be discovered. Disaster not to be found. Wonderful quote. You could write books about that, about people's defenses and how they defend against being found and how they need to be found, right? And joy to be hidden, very much. You got to be able to hide. So the unintended result is to discover a world of yourself that sometimes people separate from themselves and they don't acknowledge, or they might project it out into the world. Like supposing you hate, remember what happened to the man that was tied to the fence? He was gay and he was beaten to death. What terrible things that people have. But they said, it's not me. I'm not homophobic. Not me. And look at the result of that. It's terrible. People project these things into, priests, have sex with, they can't get married, so they have sex with young people. But then on the surface, they are trying to, preach consideration for people, respect, and care for people. This is not all priests, but it happens quite frequently. So that death was a result of prejudice against people who have a different sexual orientation. But those things are in us, and the more we talk freely about us, we all have prejudices. It's not bad to have a prejudice. It's bad when you let it interfere with your life and reject people out of kind because of the color of their skin or their religion. But we all have them. We're human beings. We're raised with them. But work on them. Learn about them. Learn about what prejudices you have in yourself that you say, well, I'm such a considerate, kind, liberal person. Well, I met many liberal people who have their own prejudices. The conservatives don't have the whole stock market on that. There are many things that like I said, hate and love go together. If you can't hate, you can't really love. And vulnerability, that's one I think that is so essential to be able to become and be able to be vulnerable. Like couples, they always fight, and they fight about who didn't take out the trash and who didn't do this and who needs to do laundry. And I'm paying more of the bills than you are. And they're fighting more about you don't take care of me enough. You don't do things for me enough. But what things are you talking about? The garbage or the tailor, or are you talking about love? And that's what couples often can't talk. I miss you. I miss you. You haven't touched me in so long. You touched me when we were first married or we first went out together. You used to like to take me out. We'd go out to dates. We haven't been out to dates in a long time. I don't think you love me anymore. Will they say that in a couple counseling? Often they skirt around that issue. I need you. That's a terrible thing to admit to. It's a wonderful thing to admit to. We're human beings. We all have all different kinds of needs. One time I had a young fellow who walked into, didn't walk in, he was in my group therapy for a while, and one day he did all these obnoxious things, but anyway, he sat down on the floor. And I said, how come you're sitting down on the floor today? And he said, because I want attention. Oh, wonderful. I thought that was such a burst of authenticity and honesty. So vulnerability is an unintended benefit of being in psychotherapy, being able to be vulnerable in every different way, in talking about your relationships, in being vulnerable here to yourself here, and being able to free speak to me and know that you're not going to be judged like you have been judged before. So all these benefits we have, I'm not sure, did I make a list? I think I covered the sexual issues about how people, when they won't talk about what they need, and also they won't talk directly about the sexual specific acts of sexual behavior that they would like from their partner too, so they're ashamed about that. So if they can be talk directly about graphic details, eventually, about what they're missing in their sexual relationship, and then also the emotional side of wanting to be not feeling loved a long time. That's a big benefit from therapy. So this is Dr. Mark Sehl from the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart. And this is Tuesday, so it's nice to be here today. I'm early, Tuesday early. Sometimes I don't get to Tuesday until Wednesday, and so I'll try to continue as best as my ability to do that. And so this is Dr. Mark Sehl. If you need to contact me, there's a contact. Go to marksehl.com. Everything is up there. The papers that I've written, whatever, and the contact form, though, you can fill that out if you wanted to talk to me about something. And also you can contact me at marksehl@gmail.com. And I have a phone number you can text me at 917-991-9113. So if you can, like this talk. You see a button in front of you there that you can like it if you like it. And also a Gmail account. If you can subscribe to the channel, you need a Gmail account, and then you could leave responses or comments, which I do respond to. And sometimes there's some interesting things that go on between those exchanges. Okay, so adios for now. Mark Sehl signing off. Bye-bye.